So, what translation?
Iti.
Iti.
In this way.
In this way.
Shushruma.
Sushruma.
We have heard.
We have heard.
Nirbandham.
Nirbandham.
Strong determination.
Strong determination.
Tapaha. Austerity.
Austerity.
Paramam. Very severe.
Very severe.
Ashtitaha.
Ashtitaha.
Is situated in.
Is
Vidhatsva. Please take steps.
Please take steps.
Anantara.
None.
As soon as possible.
As soon as.
Yuktam. Befitting.
Befitting.
Swayam.
Swayam.
Yourself.
Yes.
Tribhuvana Ishvara.
Tribhuvana Ishvara.
O Master of the three worlds.
O Master of the.
Translation. O Lord, we have heard from reliable sources that in order to obtain your post, Hiranyakashipu is now engaged in severe austerity. You are the master of the three worlds. Please, without delay, take whatever step you deem appropriate. Purport. In the material world, a servant is provided for by the master, but is always planning how to capture the master's post. There have been many instances of this in history, especially in India during the Mohammedan rule. Many servants, by plans and devices, took over the posts of their masters. It is learned from Chaitanya literature that one big zamindar, Subhuti Roy, kept a Mohammedan boy as a servant. Of course, he trained the boy as his own child, and sometimes, when the boy would steal something, the master would chastise him by striking him with a cane. There was a mark on the boy's back from this chastisement. Later, after that boy had by crooked means become Hussein Shah, Nawab of Bengal, one day his wife saw the mark on his back and inquired about it. The Nawab replied that in his childhood he had been a servant of Subhuti Roy, who had punished him because of some mischievous activities. Upon hearing this, the Nawab's wife immediately became agitated and requested her husband to kill Subhuti Roy. Nawab Hussein Shah, of course, was very grateful to Roy and therefore refused to kill him. But when his wife requested him to turn Subhuti Roy into a Mohammedan, the Nawab agreed. Taking some water from his water pot, he sprinkled it upon Subhuti Roy and declared that Subhuti Roy had now become a Mohammedan. The point is that this Nawab had been an ordinary menial servant of Subhuti Roy, but was somehow or other able to occupy the supreme post of Nawab of Bengal. This is the material world. Everyone is trying to become master through various devices, although everyone is servant of his senses. Following this system, a living entity, although servant of his senses, tries to become master of the whole universe. Hiranyakashipu was a typical example of this, and Brahma was informed by the demigods of his intention.
So Chaitanya start here to yield to them. Swayam Rupam Padamayan Padatasya Padana. Vande Sri Krishna Chaitanya, Nityananda Sahodatu, Godadaya Paspavantu, Chita Chandra. Namo Vishankara Krishna Pristaya Victoris, from Bhaktivedanta, Swami. Namaste Saraswati Devi Gauravani Chandra Devi Senses Maya. Jai Sri Krishna Chaitanya Prabhu Nityananda Sankirtan Hare Krishna 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 Hare Hare Rama. So the story of young people going to the forest to perform austerities is clearly delineated in Bhagavatam. And one of those things that brings a bear in any intelligent person's mind is that this very tendency to control, power, and control is so intense in the conscious soul. And therefore, Prabhupada, like I mentioned in the last sentence of the power, that people in general, although we tend to portray the idea that we are servants of the self, but our tendency to control is one power. So United people, the demigods, had informed about the intent of the austerities being performed. Now, United people was not going. So austerities, there's no problem in austerities, but what is the intent? And sometimes people perform heavy austerities with the idea of getting a big position. And so, in the case of the United States, the demigods, they know. See, this is the difference between the demigods and the humans. Humans, we can't figure out what is going on, what is the intent of the other person even sitting by. I don't know what you're thinking right now. So when Lord Brahma was intimated about his very intentional support, he didn't think it can. He was worried. And his son, the best of his sons, he knew another one. Lord Brahma says in his delineation of the Nrsimha Kavachas, there are two Nrsimha Kavachas. One was given by Prahlad, and the other was given by Lord Brahma. One of Lord Brahma, very complex. So, in the opening verses, Lord Brahma mentions that because Narada Muni was asking him how Lord Indra was able to conquer the enemies. So then Lord Brahma was explaining. Now, this is the position of a parent. A parent should be in a position to be able to clarify the doubts of the child. So now the morning inquired about, how did Indra, he was faced with so much difficulty. He was ultimately able to conquer the demons. How is that? The Lord Brahma said, "Oh, the best of my sons, Surnada Vaksha, my dear Nada, listen to me. Putra sisters, you're the best of my sons." So, if someone is your best, you give them everything. You give them everything and everything. So Brahma, he brought up this whole idea of how Indra recited his praise. Please, Lord Vishnu. Pleasing Lord Vishnu is the source of commerce. Therefore, the younger sister was of authorities, and then his whole idea was not to please Vishnu, to get some power, to subvert the position of, of any other mortal, and therefore the demigods of the concerned. We see, coup d'etats is very common amongst people of phenomenological mindset. From by phenomenological mindset, I'm referring to his whole idea that I want to control. And we see that all the time. Just the past president, the ex-president of Brazil, he's just in jail. That is a clear manifestation of an addiction to power. Addiction to power and control. So sometimes people even know that if go ahead to try to overthrow the positive position of power, if I get apprehended, it's a felony. I'll be jailed. But they go ahead to do it. In the case of the United States, he wanted to be eternal, wanted to live forever. We are not designed, material world is not designed for that. Even the demigods, yes, they live for a very long time, but ultimately they have to change it. Now, in the 20th chapter of the Srimad Purana, a delineation is given. So Vyasa gave the delineation how Lord Brahma was worried about the austerities of Hiranyasipu, having been told the intent of Hiranyasipu's austerities. Having been told about the intent of Hiranyasipu with his austerities. So he was worried. And when he was worried, his son Nada, the best of his sons. Why is Nada the best of the sons of Lord Brahma? Because according to Lord Brahma, he said Nada is blessed with Tapodana, the wealth of austerity. And what is that wealth of austerity that Brahma was referring to? That Nada Muni even travels on behalf of Vishnu to spread the message of God in the whole truth. That is his commitment. And so, Nada took up the responsibility to placate his father. What did he do? He made some arrangement with his friend, Bhagavatam. This is all again in the 20th chapter of the Srimad Purana. He made some arrangement with Bhagavatam, his friend. And the both of them, they took the form of bears to perch on the tree under where Hiranyasipu was performing his austerities. And the idea now that to provide on that they will perch there, that they assume the form of bears, they perch there, and recite Vishnu, Narayana, Om Namo Narayana. Narayana or Vishnu or Krishna is, Hiranyasipu see Narayana as his enemy. Why? Because he's getting brother. Yeah. So they went there, assumed the form of bears, perched on that tree, and started reciting Om Namo Narayana. Om Namo Narayana. And Hiranyasipu was very distraught. He couldn't tolerate those holy names. The holy names are so powerful that the demons were very intolerant to the holy name. So he left. And before he left home for the forest for his austerity, he told his wife that he was going to be away for a long time. First, you know his wife's name? So he told his wife, do some research, okay? He told his wife that he'll be away for a long time. You're leaving, you're going to be away from home. You have to tell your wife where you're going. Yeah. The wife should know all that place you go. Yeah. So he came back abruptly to his studies because of the holiday. See, this is the position of a father. I mean, the position of a son or a child. So liberate the family, liberate the parents. In fact, you mentioned in the Chaitanya Bhagavatam that just by cultivating devotional service, uh, the the devotion practitioner is able to liberate several generations from his family, not just your immediate parents. And this is something that we should reflect on and remind ourselves of always. Because otherwise, sometimes, you know, the chances are that we forget the benefits of Christian consciousness. Or sometimes we think there's something more important than practicing Krishna consciousness. You tell me, if you believe about Bill Gates, you're not going to liberate anyone in your family. No. So this is the beauty of devotional service. And so, I can say left because of the expert uh, and dedicated service of another morning to his father. He went with his friend and spoiled his plans. So he left. Now, the Bhagavatam did not delineate this part of the meaning of the story. And so, a very great job, a number of the Vyasadev's books, they complement each other. Something is not here, it's something else. So, the understanding is that we are very much addicted to power, to control. And the funny thing is that nobody wants to be controlled in this world. Even you tell a kindergarten, hey, Govinda, sit down there. Say 2 years old, you tell him, hey, Govinda, sit down there. I've seen it once. Hey, Govinda, sit down there. That's the time Govinda will stand up. He wants to show you that, hey, you're gonna control me, okay? I said, shit. So this Ishwara Bhav has led so many people into trouble. And essentially, for your Sipo, is basically characterized as someone who is imbued with chronological mindset, what Krishna describes in Bhagavad Gita as demoniac or asura. And the conception of uh, those who are imbued with these tendencies is They are thinking, I am, I am very bad. I know everything. I am the enjoyer. In fact, by dint of his name, Iran's four is a combination of two words, which indicates software, gold, soft. And so people who are interested in power, we can help. They can do anything. And therefore, it is important that the jiva takes that position of a servant. The Prabhupada also gives in the poem about how Subodhi servant eventually he became found his way to become a big politician, a big guy. And his wife, after noticing the scar on his back, was agitated and wanted him to punish Subodhi. But he considered that Subodhi was helpful to him. But then when it came to the point of the other suggestion from the wife, and in most cases, you know, the husbands they do the wish of the wife. If you want to be happy, you better do the wish of your wife. Except you don't want to be happy. So this Nawab, he knows this principle that if you want to, no matter how big you are, you want to be happy, no, you have to do the wish of your wife. Your wife's opinion must be taken into consideration. So when the wives given the other suggestion about discipline of the body, he thought that the idea of converting into Islam was something. So he did that. Now, the whole idea about this data is sometimes we read books, we tell the stories, we listen to the stories. From what we understand in high circles of knowledge acquisition and dissemination there are basic things we need to understand about this, especially with all the leelas in our literature. That every leela basically has three components. One is the conceptual framework, and one, the next step is the contemporary, Acharya's contemporary documentation or commentaries about that. And then the very third stage is the application, integration of the contemporary studies and the concept of frameworks. See, Krishna says, you're not this one. That's a concept of framework.
I'm sorry, Barbara, what was the first thing you said?
I said conceptual framework.
Conceptual?
Conceptual framework. It's like theory or a model. In science, we have all of those stuffs. You know, we have the model, and then we have the scientists who use that model and address contemporary situations. So if Krishna says, you're not this body, good for you. Why did the child say? You know, Prabhupada will regularly, like in the every day, he will regularly tell his disciples You're not Americans. You're not Indians. You're not Europeans. It looks very, it seems very simple, right? But no, it's not simple. It is very difficult to live by that concept of freedom. It's very. The Nordic one. That is the kindergarten. That is the kindergarten stage of spiritual knowledge. But it is so difficult to live it. Okay, if you say an honest body, if someone steps on your toes, why you get why you get so furious? So yeah, with the philosophy, the application is in most cases lacking. If we are able to integrate the conceptual framework or the models, the theoretical models that Krishna has given, Vyasa has given, if we integrate that with the commentaries of the acharyas, and Prabhupada is very good in using the philosophy to address contemporary situations. The Prabhupada's comments are typical examples of contemporary stories on the concept of faith. You see what the text is, and see how Prabhupada used that his commentary in addressing a real life situation. And so this is something that in most cases, many people don't notice it or are not able to identify it. But this is something that is is most easily identified with people who have some higher studies. Because without the integration, we simply become like parapologists. You know parents? Parents, they also speak very nicely. If you teach a parrot to repeat something, they will repeat it and their recitation will be better than you. Will be better than yours. But the parrot may not even understand what you say. Yeah. So, Iranga Simple is a typical, is the epitome of phenomenological mindset. And we do have phenomenological mindset. We have it to some degree. Oh, yeah, we have it. We have it. We have it under control in work. And sometimes we work so hard to do this with all different type of strategies, here and there. Yeah. So the important factor here is that Lord Brahma was rescued from this situation before substance by another. His position of the son or position of the devotee is to facilitate liberation of generations. So, are there any comments or questions?
Actually, yes. You were talking about the fact that the power or the tendency to control is
Ishvara Bhava.
sense within all of us. And I'm reminded of a statement that Dr. Turkey made once. He said, if it weren't for the fact that within ISKCON, that some people had positions, they wouldn't be the movies.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
Proper distinction and admiration,
Mm-hmm.
desires within
Yeah.
us.
It's very important. We want the whole world to worship us. Yeah. Desire to be worshipped. One may say, well, I'm not trying to play Krishna. By our actions, we see that we're trying to play Krishna. Want to Are you? Philosophy is very sweet. If we can just practice what God has given to us, we will change the whole world. Sometimes we do selective practice. We take this is good for me, so I'll practice this. This one is too hard for me. I'm going to that level. It is called selective list, selective expression. Yes, what's the question? The question is phrase?
And also thank you for reminding us that, yes, we practice Krishna consciousness basically for our benefit. And we forget about the benefits for others, as you say, in terms of when we do this properly, or even with an intent of sincerity, that we help generations in our family, 100 generations back.
It's there in the Chaitanya Bhagavatam. I'm not making it up.
Oh.
It's there in the Chaitanya Bhagavatam. There was a discussion between Pundarik Vidyanit and Gara Pandit. Pundarik Vidyanit was explaining all. Paramahamsa came from generations. It's hard to be Paramahamsa and you replace so many people. Even if you don't become a Paramahamsa, you will break so many generations, tens of generations. It's not beauty. There is no, there's no any type of job, position you will attain in the material world. If you are even so rich, by the time you leave the body, your children they become enemies. They're fighting for the world. I've seen several cases like that. Some of the cases of all these wealthy families, when the father has left, goes up with the Supreme Court. They start killing themselves. So yeah, somebody may be thinking, you're not producing anything to help to change the world. But no, we are helping to change the world. Just by going to chant Hare Krishna, you are helping to minimize the crime in society. The research is having conducted on this. Scientific research is having conducted. Absolutely. It's a scientific proof. But sometimes we take Krishna consciousness just for religiosity. But it's Prabhupada sometimes said Krishna consciousness is science, and yes. It is a science. Because the very foundation of Krishna consciousness, the inauguration of the Sankirtan movement was based on what's your time? Inaugurated the Sankirtan movement using a scientific model called synergy. Synergy means when two or more people come together to do a particular thing, the results are always greater than individuals doing that same thing and bringing the results together. That's a scientific model. Okay. So Krishna consciousness, yeah, it's just a science. Science means what? Activities, observations, results, and conclusions. And if someone is practicing Krishna consciousness, we have the lived experience of self-transformation. The things you were doing some years back, it's disgusting to you now. Yeah. Yes.
I was just gonna say that even in the Christian Bible, it says, two are gathering by name. The Lord is there.
Yeah, that's a philosophical.
I mean, it's kind of universal.
Yeah, it's a philosophical ideology. But it is a son reality too. That's philosophy. There is the doctrines, but there is scientific data. So people are going to do experiments. For us, we need to remind ourselves about the beauty of Krishna consciousness so that we can have to motivate each other. If even we don't have a self-motivation. Okay. All right. In the absence of any other comments or questions, we'd like to join this meeting. Okay.
So we have to apply the philosophy with our intelligence, but from what I saw in the Gita, our intelligence, our mind, these are material things too, and so they're deeply contaminated. So even as we try to apply the philosophy, we're still putting our biases in, and we're still, essentially satisfying our own need just with fancier language. So how do we overcome that tendency to try to manipulate even, what Srila Prabhupada's given for our own agenda?
That's a nice one. Yeah, see the tendency for the gratification of the sense proclamations, the last sentence there about something relating to this very thing, very subtle. So the tendency to control is also related to sense gratification. It's a subtle way of gratifying the senses. We enjoy that. And so we do all types of manipulations. We try to bring people close to us and make them feel that we love them, we care for them, and all this stuff. But at the back of our mind, we actually want to control. Yeah, so now we get purified. When we get purified, we navigate through these subtle challenges, these subtle ways. When you're trying to make a garden, and the crops are growing, there are weeds also growing. So the gardener has to be careful, meticulous in trying to weed out those. That is contamination here in front. We have our bias. We have so many biases. So, in fact, if you study bias, you'll be amazed. Now, we full of different type of biases. So it's a challenge. But the beauty is that Krishna consciousness is very pure. Just by being in process, we get purified. Just by listening to Bhagavatam, we get purified. If I listen to Bhagavatam, it's like worship of the deity. That's what Lord Krishna mentions in the Gita Mahatmya. But Vishnu in the discussion Lakshmi in the Gita Mahatmya, he mentioned that the Bhagavad Gita is not different. In other words, the Vedic literature, the books are not different. If you read the books, it's the worship of the Lord with our intelligence. So it's not just like, it's not a ritual that we have to read the books because we love Prabhupada. It's beyond that. So, yeah, proper understanding has to be there so that we are conscientious about what we're doing. And when we have that type of attitude, we have greater benefits in devotions. All right. Thank you very much. Srimad Bhagavatam.
Guys, there were some guys that didn't show up. No, something. I'm fine. I'm surprised. I'm fine. No, what are you doing? No, I'm not. People are sitting. No, people are big. No, so this, which is a United Station. People kind of shape, treating better. Is here.
Yeah, you talk.
And it's happening. Yes. Huh? How much of a difficult no, I no, you saw it. So we'll look together one next week.
Yeah.
Okay.
Oh, we can improve. Kevala Bhakti Tanmaha Sri Guru Charana Kevala Tanmaha Mando Mui Savarana Nate No, We do prayers schools, yeah. We do morning prayers after we finish Guru Puja, yeah.
Yeah, which I know is out. Great.
Oh.
But, cause there's kids on after the green.
What happened to the?
They're probably just running late.
Oh, I thought maybe you were like painting or something.
No.
You want to see us the image.
Vichara Krishna Gopina Samudravan Dogadan Jai Even Ramadan Kijai Srimad Kijai Sri Jagannath Murijan Kijai Sri Jagannath Kijai Ita Dora Kamanande Our voice Hare Krishna, our glories to the assembled devotees, our assembled devotees, our no beans? At least I can eat corn. Wait, but at least I can eat green beans.
Tofu's bonafide, right?